What happens when a sitting vice president walks onto a late-night talk show expecting a respectful conversation and instead gets ambushed by a host who seems more interested in playing to the crowd than listening? In just 37 seconds, one comment would turn a routine interview into the most shocking television moment of the year. The studio lights are bright as Kamala Harris walks onto the stage. The audience is clapping. She's smiling, waving to people in their seats. Jimmy Kimmel is standing there waiting for her. They shake hands. Everything seems normal. Everything seems fine. But something feels different tonight. Something in the air feels tense. They sit down across from each other. The cameras are rolling. Millions of people are watching from home. Kamala adjusts her jacket and gets comfortable in the chair. Jimmy is looking at his note cards. He's got that grin on his face. That look he always has. But tonight it seems different. It seems almost mean. "So, Madam Vice President," Jimmy starts, and already his tone is sharper than usual. "Thanks for coming on the show. I know you're a busy woman." He pauses, looks at the audience, then back at her. Or are you? I mean, what does a vice president actually do all day? The audience laughs. Some of them, anyway. Kamala keeps her smile, but you can see her eyes change. She's a professional, though. She's been through worse. "Well, Jimmy, the vice president has quite a full schedule, actually," she says calmly. "I work closely with the president on domestic and foreign policy. I meet with world leaders. I advocate for important legislation." Right, Jimmy cuts her off. He's nodding, but not really listening. "But, specifically, what did you do yesterday? Can you tell us one thing you accomplished yesterday?" It's rude. The way he asks it is rude, like he's trying to catch her in something. Kamala takes a breath. "Yesterday, I met with senators about infrastructure funding. I had a call with our team about healthcare policy, and I spoke at an event for small business owners," she explains. Her voice is steady. She's not going to let him get to her. "Small business owners," Jimmy repeats, making a face. "You know what's funny about politicians and small businesses? You all love to talk about them, but none of you have ever actually run one." The audience is quieter now. This isn't the fun banter they came to see. This is getting uncomfortable. Kamala shifts in her seat. "Actually, Jimmy, I think supporting small businesses is crucial to our economy," she says. "And while I haven't owned one myself, I've spent my career fighting for working families and entrepreneurs." "Fighting," Jimmy says, leaning back in his chair. "That's a word politicians love. Fighting for this, fighting for that. But what are you actually fighting? Who's the enemy here?" "The enemy is inequality," Kamala says. "The enemy is a system that doesn't work for everyone. The enemy is people who think only some Americans deserve opportunity." Jimmy laughs. Actually laughs, like she just said something ridiculous. "Come on," he says. "That's such a non-answer. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You politicians, you say all these nice words, but they don't mean anything." "I disagree, Jimmy," Kamala says, and her voice is firmer now. "Words matter. Policy matters. The work we do matters to real people." "Does it, though?" Jimmy leans forward. He's enjoying this. You can tell he's enjoying making her uncomfortable. Because from where I'm sitting, from where most Americans are sitting, it seems like nothing ever changes. You all make promises. You all say you're fighting for us, and then nothing happens. "That's not fair," Kamala says. "Change takes time. Change takes building coalitions and working across the aisle. And..." "Oh, here we go," Jimmy interrupts again. "Working across the aisle. Another greatest hits from the politician playbook. You know what? I'm bored already." "Are you bored?" He looks at the audience. Some people laugh nervously. Most people look confused. Kamala is clearly trying to stay professional. She clasps her hands together. "Jimmy, I came here tonight to have a real conversation about the issues that matter to Americans, she says. If you're not interested in that, then maybe we should. Maybe we should what? Jimmy challenges. Maybe you should leave? Is that what you want to do? Just walk off when the questions get tough? The questions aren't tough, Jimmy, Kamala says, and now there's an edge to her voice. They're disrespectful. There's a difference between holding someone accountable and just being rude. Oh, I'm being rude. Jimmy puts his hand on his chest like he's shocked. Ladies and gentlemen, the vice president thinks I'm being rude. I'm just asking questions. Isn't that what journalists are supposed to do? You're not a journalist, Jimmy, Kamala says quietly. You're a comedian. And there's nothing funny about what you're doing right now. The studio is so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. The audience doesn't know what to do. The crew behind the cameras is frozen. This has never happened before. On this show. Never. Jimmy's face changes. The fake smile drops. Now he looks actually angry. Excuse me, he says. You're going to come on my show, on my stage, and tell me what I am? I've been doing this for years. I've interviewed presidents. I've interviewed celebrities. I've interviewed people way more important than you. More important than the Vice President of the United States, Kamala says. She's not backing down. That's an interesting perspective, Jimmy. Yeah, well, at least they were interesting, Jimmy snaps back. At least they had something to say besides talking points and political garbage. You know what your problem is? You think you're special. You think because you have this title that everyone should bow down and treat you like royalty. I never said that, Kamala responds. I never asked for special treatment. I asked for basic respect. The same respect you'd give anyone else sitting in this chair. Respect is earned, Jimmy says, pointing at her. And what have you done to earn it? What have you actually accomplished? Can you name one thing, one real thing, that you've done that's changed anyone's life? Kamala stares at him. You can see her processing this. Processing whether this is worth it. Whether sitting here and taking this abuse is worth it. I've spent my entire career in public service, she says slowly. As a prosecutor, I put criminals behind bars. As Attorney General, I fought for consumer protection and environmental justice. As a senator, I fought for health care and civil rights. As vice president, I work every single day to make this country better. Blah, blah, blah. Jimmy actually says this. He actually makes that sound. More resume talking points. I could have gotten that from your website. I'm asking you as a person, what have you done that matters? I matter, Jimmy, Kamala says, and her voice breaks just a little. My work matters. The people I've helped matter. And I don't need to justify my existence or my career to someone who makes their living telling jokes. There it is, Jimmy says, slapping his desk. There's that elitist attitude. You think you're better than me because you work in government. You think what you do is so important, and what I do is just silly entertainment. I never said that, Kamala insists. You're putting words in my mouth. Am I? Jimmy stands up now. He's actually standing up in the middle of the interview. Because it sure sounds like you look down on what I do. It sure sounds like you think you're too good to be here. Kamala stands up too. She's not going to let him tower over her. What I think, Jimmy, is that you invited me here under false pretenses, she says. I thought we were going to have a real conversation. Instead, you've spent the last several minutes attacking me, belittling my work, and being disrespectful. I don't have to sit here and take this. Then don't, Jimmy says, spreading his arms wide. Nobody's forcing you to stay. If you can't handle a few tough questions, then maybe you're in the wrong line of work. These aren't tough questions, Kamala says, and now she's really angry. You can hear it in her voice. Tough questions would be about policy, about decisions, about the real challenges facing this country. What you're doing is grandstanding. You're performing for your audience at my expense. My audience? Jimmy looks at the crowd. These are the American people. These are the voters. And they deserve to see who you really are. They deserve to see that when things get a little uncomfortable, when someone pushes back even a little bit, you fall apart. I'm not falling apart, Jimmy, Kamala says firmly. I'm standing up for myself, something you clearly wouldn't understand. What's that supposed to mean? Jimmy demands. It means that bullying someone on your own show, where you have all the power, where you control the cameras and the audience and the narrative, isn't brave, Kamala says. It's cowardly. You want to have a real conversation? Turn off the cameras. Dismiss the audience. Talk to me like a human being instead of a punching bag for your entertainment. Jimmy laughs again. That same mean laugh. Oh, please, he says. You're the Vice President of the United States. You have more power than I could ever dream of. And you're standing here playing the victim because I asked you a few questions you didn't like. Do you know how pathetic that sounds? Pathetic, Kamala repeats. She nods slowly. You know what's pathetic, Jimmy? A grown man who can't conduct a simple interview without resorting to insults. A host who has to tear down his guests to feel important. That's pathetic. The audience gasps. Actual gasps. This is beyond anything they expected to see tonight. Jimmy's face is red now. He's furious. You need to leave, he says. Get off my stage. Get out of my studio. You're done here. I agree, Kamala says. I am done here. I'm done wasting my time with someone who has no interest in real dialogue. Someone who just wants to score points and get clips for social media. She starts to walk away, but Jimmy isn't finished. That's right. Run away, he calls after her. That's what you people do, isn't it? When things get hard, when someone calls you out, you just run away and play the victim. Kamala stops. She turns around slowly. You want to know what I do when things get hard, Jimmy? She asks. I was a prosecutor. I stood in courtrooms and fought for justice. I faced down criminals and defended victims. I've dealt with real challenges, real opposition, real threats. You think this is hard? You think you're some kind of challenge? You're not. You're just a bully with a microphone. Get out, Jimmy says again, but his voice is shaking now. Security, get her out of here. I'm leaving, Kamala says. I don't need security to escort me. Unlike you, I know when I'm not wanted. And unlike you, I have the dignity to walk away from a toxic situation. She turns and walks toward the exit. The audience doesn't know whether to clap or sit in silence. Most of them choose silence. They're in shock. Everyone is in shock. But Jimmy can't help himself. He has to get the last word. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Madam Vice President, he shouts. Maybe next time you'll think twice before coming on a show where the host doesn't worship the ground you walk on. Kamala pauses at the edge of the stage. For a moment, it looks like she might turn around, might say something else, but she doesn't. She just shakes her head and keeps walking. The cameras are still rolling. They catch everything. Her walking off stage. Jimmy standing there, chest heaving, face red. The confused audience. The stunned crew members. Jimmy sits back down at his desk. He tries to compose himself, tries to get back into host mode. Well, he says to the camera, forcing a smile, I guess she couldn't handle the heat. We'll be right back after this break. But the damage is done. Everyone saw it. Everyone saw a host lose control. Everyone saw him attack a guest for no reason. Everyone saw him turn what should have been a normal interview into a personal vendetta. In the control room, producers are panicking. This is a disaster. This is a public relations nightmare. How do they fix this? How do they spin this? But there's no spinning it. There's no fixing it. The whole world just watched Jimmy Kimmel berate the Vice President of the United States. They watched him insult her, belittle her, and ultimately kick her off his show. And they watched Kamala Harris stand her ground. They watched her defend herself with grace and dignity They watched her refuse to be bullied. They watched her walk away with her head held high. The interview that was supposed to last 20 minutes lasted less than 10. 10 minutes of escalating tension. 10 minutes of a host forgetting his role. 10 minutes of disrespect and hostility. Back on stage, Jimmy is trying to do his next segment. He's trying to make jokes, trying to pretend everything is fine, but you can see it in his face. He knows he messed up. He knows he went too far. The band is playing. The cameras are moving. The show goes on because the show always goes on. But everyone knows that something changed tonight. Something broke. In her car, driving away from the studio, Kamala is quiet. Her team is asking if she's okay, asking what happened. But she just looks out the window. She didn't want this. She didn't come to the show looking for a fight. She came to talk about policy, about her work, about the things that matter. But Jimmy had other plans. Jimmy wanted drama. He wanted conflict. He wanted a viral moment. Well, he got one. Just not the kind he was hoping for. Because when people talk about this interview tomorrow, they won't be talking about how Jimmy took down a politician. They won't be praising him for asking tough questions. They'll be talking about how he lost control, how he let his ego get in the way of his job, how he treated a guest with contempt and disrespect. And they'll be talking about Kamala, about how she stood up for herself, how she didn't back down, how she called out bad behavior when she saw it, how she left with dignity intact. The studio audience is filing out. They're talking amongst themselves. Some of them are defending Jimmy, saying he was just doing his job, saying politicians need to be held accountable. But most of them look uncomfortable. Most of them know they witnessed something wrong. The crew is packing up equipment. They've been doing this for years. They've seen lots of interviews, lots of guests, lots of moments, but nothing like this. Nothing this hostile. Nothing this personal. Jimmy is in his dressing room now. The show is over. He's alone, looking at himself in the mirror, replaying the interview in his head, wondering if he should feel bad, wondering if he was right, wondering what people will say. His phone is already blowing up. Texts from friends, messages from colleagues, emails from his team. Everyone wants to know what happened. Everyone wants to know why he did it. Everyone wants to know what he was thinking. But Jimmy doesn't have answers. Or maybe he does, and he doesn't want to admit them. Maybe he was jealous. Maybe he wanted to prove something. Maybe he let the power of being the host, of having control, go to his head. Whatever the reason, it doesn't matter now. What's done is done. The interview is over. Kamala is gone. And the fallout is just beginning. Across town, Kamala is with her team. They're debriefing, going over what happened, making sure everyone is on the same page. But Kamala isn't interested in damage control. She isn't interested in spinning the story. I said what I said, she tells them. I meant what I meant, and I'd do it again. Because that's who she is. Someone who stands up for herself. Someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect. Someone who knows her worth and won't let anyone diminish it. The interview is already spreading online. Clips are being shared. People are taking sides. Some support Jimmy. Some support Kamala. But everyone has an opinion. And at the center of it all is one simple truth. A host forgot that his job is to interview guests, not attack them. He forgot that having a platform comes with responsibility. He forgot that respect should be the baseline, not a privilege you have to earn. Kamala didn't forget, though. She remembered who she was. She remembered what she stood for. And when push came to shove, she chose dignity over publicity. She chose self-respect over playing nice. The lights in the studio are dark now. The audience is gone. The cameras are off. But the impact of what happened will last much longer than one night. Because this wasn't just an interview gone wrong. This was a moment that revealed character. Jimmy's character as someone who abuses his power. Kamala's character as someone who stands firm in the face of adversity. Tomorrow, the news cycle will be full of this story. Pundits will analyze every word. Critics will dissect every moment. Supporters on both sides will defend their person. But tonight, in the quiet after the storm, the truth is simple. Kamala Harris walked into that studio expecting a conversation. Jimmy Kimmel gave her a confrontation. And when faced with disrespect, she did what anyone with self-respect would do. She left. She didn't storm off in anger. She didn't throw a tantrum. She calmly, clearly, and firmly stated her boundaries. She called out the behavior for what it was. And then she removed herself from the situation. That's not running away. That's not being unable to handle tough questions. That's knowing your worth. That's refusing to participate in your own mistreatment. Jimmy wanted a moment. He got one. Just not the kind that makes you look good. Not the kind that makes you proud. The kind that makes you question whether the applause and the ratings are worth losing your integrity. And Kamala, she got a moment too. A moment where she showed millions of people watching that you don't have to accept being treated poorly. That you can stand up to someone with power and not back down. That sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away. The interview was supposed to be about policy, about leadership, about the future of the country. Instead, it became about something else entirely. About respect, about dignity, about how we treat each other, especially when the cameras are rolling. In 37 seconds, with one comment, Jimmy Kimmel turned what could have been a normal interview into the most talked about television moment in recent memory. And in doing so, he revealed more about himself than he probably intended. Because at the end of the day, how you treat people, especially people you disagree with, especially people in vulnerable positions, says everything about who you are. And tonight, Jimmy showed us exactly who he is. Someone willing to sacrifice decency for drama. Someone willing to hurt a guest for entertainment. Someone who forgot that being a host means creating a space where conversation can happen, not a battlefield where you try to destroy your opponent. Kamala showed us who she is too. Someone who won't be pushed around. Someone who values herself enough to leave when she's not being valued. Someone who understands that not every fight is worth fighting, but standing up for yourself always is. The stage is empty now. The show is over. But the story is just beginning. Because moments like this don't just disappear. They linger. They matter. They change how people see you. And tonight, the world saw two people clearly. A host who lost his way, and a vice president who found her voice and used it to say, enough is enough.